Right. Well, it's 2 o'clock, so I think we're just going to go ahead and get started. But welcome everyone. Thanks so much for showing up and joining us on our community conversations. This is the first community conversations of the fall semester. So we have two more coming up, one on site selection and one on website audits. But today we're going to learn about cybersecurity from Dr. Stephen Addison. Dr. Addison is the Dean of the College of Math and Natural Sciences here at UCA. Did I get that right, Dr. Addison?
Yes.
Okay, good. And he has a very impressive resume and also a very cool job, also being the head of the cyber range here at UCA. Cybersecurity has become a really hot topic recently. As the world is increasingly online, your data is increasingly vulnerable. I know I get notifications about a password that I've had that's been involved in a data breach, and I get really nervous about it. But Dr. Addison maybe won't be here to, console me about that. But we'll learn a little bit more about cybersecurity in general and how that can kind of benefit your organizations and your communities. And we're going to hear from Dr. Addison, and then at the end, we're going to have a Q&A session. So if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to ask away. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Addison.
Well, thank you. So I'll begin by sharing my screen. So you should all be able to see my screen at the moment. So I've actually, this is actually my 38th year of working at UCA. So I've been here a long time. And I've been an administrator since the early 1990s. I served as interim chair of the Department of Physics in 1993-94. Then the new College of Natural Science and Mathematics was founded, and I became its associate dean when it was founded. And I did that for almost 10 years, but partway through that, I helped found the Department of Computer Science. I served as its chair in 2001, 2002. After that, since I chaired the department, the physics department, I thought they would like to have me back as their chair. So I did that for 10 years. And I've been dean of the college since 2012. In that time, I've been the designer of our Math Computer Science building, our Conway Corporation Center for Sciences, and most recently our Lewis Science Center, Science Annex. So I've got to do lots of things. In my now 10 years as dean, I focused on developing programs for the new economy, and foremost amongst those are programs in cybersecurity, data science, engineering, physics, and computer engineering. And I've been thinking about such issues for a long time because you just can't do that. In the fall of 2002, I set about thinking about what should UCA be doing to prepare for the future. And so I thought about developing a variety of programs, building new facilities and building other programs. One of the things I should tell you is most of these things had different names back then. So while I was thinking about them, cybersecurity and data science are the two things I've spent most time on, but my list didn't read cybersecurity and data science. What it read was information integrity and information overload, because those were the terms that were used back then. But looking at this list, I've actually built most of these programs. There's a few that I haven't done, but are still interesting, and some of which may still be in UCA's future. Food safety, you don't hear much of, but you're going to be hearing lots of it in coming years, and it's becoming increasingly important. But anyway, so I developed a vision for the future. I developed some long-term plans. And I single-mindedly set a course and followed it to bring these programs to fruition. But I want to talk in particular about cybersecurity. So computer networks were developed for scientists, and they were developed for scientists to share resources. And similarly, they were used in the military. But what that meant was all users were trusted users. There was no security built into the first computer networks. And since all of the tools that we use have been developed on those initial networks, we have always been playing a catch-up game on the security end of things. But in the 1960s, when computer networks began to really grow, no one imagined that everybody would be able to have their own computers, and so it would be so easy for people to commit cyber intrusions and cyber crimes. But we have a backbone of networks that are at heart wide open, and we have been working to harden them ever since. The cybersecurity era was kicked off by President Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. He watched a movie called War Games that you might have seen. And it stars Ali Sheedy, Matthew Broderick. They hack into a missile gaming system, which turns out to control real missiles. They almost cause World War III. And President Reagan watched an early screening of that movie. But this was three months after he launched his Strategic Defense Initiative, which was widely known as the Star Wars Initiative. And so lots of people rolled their eyes. But what happened was that he ultimately asked John Vesey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, could something like this really happen? Well, the people in the room, and this was 5 days after he watched the movie, were Secretaries of State, Secretary of Defense, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and 16 senior members of Congress. Lots of people laughed, eyes rolled, and they thought the president was losing it. Well, just about a week later, General Vesey came back and said, "Mr. President, the problem is much worse than you think." So this started the era of cybersecurity, not just in the United States, but worldwide, because there wasn't much in the way of security before this. It took some time, but the following year, a presidential finding, well, it wasn't released because it was classified as confidential, but a presidential finding was written, and it was our first national policy statement on telecommunications and automated information systems. So what we now know as computers and the internet. And it was wide-ranging, and it was the blueprint for the development of cybersecurity in the United States. There have been many presidential findings, many executive orders since. And in fact, if you listened to the news last week and this week, hearings are being held, and the Department of Homeland Security has just recommended that we develop a centralized reporting system for all cyber intrusions. Now, it may surprise you that we don't have such a system, because you would think that would be the first thing that you would need, but we in fact don't have one. Currently, this week, they're working on what the penalties for failure to report will be, because they figure if there aren't penalties, they won't get many reports. But all of this is long overdue. But it's really hard to have a coherent response if we're not really capturing the extent of the issue. So I started the real efforts to develop cybersecurity soon after I became dean, and it came after an interesting meeting. Then State Commissioner of Education Tom Kimbrell talked to us in National Science and Mathematics about a program that Louisiana Tech had launched called Learning from the Laboratory. And so we sent a team to go down and see it, basically deans, department chairs. And we saw that, but we also, I also saw a cybersecurity effort that I found to be much more interesting. So I asked them, I know that you're interested in partnering on learning with the lab, but what do we have to do to get into this cybersecurity effort? And so we talked for a couple of years, but ultimately we got funding through the Department of Homeland Security to start a cyber effort, basically starting with education of kids. It was really a summer, it was really professional development for high school teachers, designed as a summer camp for school kids. We had 9th and 10th graders in, and you can see some of them in a competition that we held here on our campus. We actually ran it every year from 2014 on until COVID prevented us from having those camps for the last 2 years. But they're really good. And as part of this, I got to meet with the head of the education department at the Department of Homeland Security. And he talked to me about developing degree programs and how much universities needed degree programs in cybersecurity and what they should look like. So that was just the impetus that I needed. We have developed cybersecurity programs at UCA. We have a degree program with 3 tracks, a pure science track, a security management track, and a cyber policy track split between 3 colleges. And I've also worked out a 2+2 agreement with ASU Mountain Home and help them to develop a 2-year program in cybersecurity. I'm continuing to share these efforts across the state because we need lots and lots of cyber professionals, which in fact I'll talk about here in a few minutes. We've also since developed a full-blown degree program in business, which sort of inverts the track in our cybersecurity degree program, which has a lot of science and some management in it. We now also have a track that has a lot of management and some cybersecurity in it. So because those sorts of professionals are needed as well. But rapidly growing program, we have lots of students in it, and it's really, really popular. We also have a cyber range, and everybody expects this something awesome when they recognize it cost over $500,000. Actually, what I'm showing you here is $1 million plus cyber range. The company that makes our cyber range is Matova, and it's called a CyberSense range. It doesn't look that impressive. It's just a rack of computers, but it is really, really capable. Thanks to Governor Hutchinson, we were able to develop this range here, and we serve our own degree program. We serve some other degree programs at other colleges in the state, and we also provide lots of access to public schools. And so this is the Arkansas Cyber Range. It's basically, there are 28 user seats for people to use it simultaneously, and inside, it's a sandbox environment where you are actually running a complete parallel version of the internet, but you can't access the external internet through it. Everything you do is contained in that sandbox. And it runs, there are about 500 virtual computers running in it, and it has everything from the root servers of the internet to a warship near Antarctica, all sending traffic. We have Facebook running, we have Twitter running, we have email traffic, we have all sorts of traffic so that students can learn how to attack and defend computer networks. It's a wonderful tool, and we are constantly training more people to use it. It can also, by the way, we can load up people's environments on it and show them how secure or vulnerable that they are. It's the tool for learning cybersecurity. So why we need cyber ranges is to learn both offense and defense in a sandbox. You can test systems before you deploy them, because if you're designing a new system and you want to look for security holes, load it in a cyber range and just attack the system. And it can emulate lots of systems, because we can emulate any, well, actually what we do is we create a virtual machine. It's not really an emulation. It does everything the real machine will do, but we can install any software on it, and we can see how difficult or how easy it would be to break into a deployed system. One of the things you should know, by the way, is that when you're learning to defend systems, in a non-Western country, it's really easy. They just attack our computer systems, because there are no laws against that in those countries. In fact, only the US has an extensive system of cybercrime laws. Some other countries have more rudimentary ones, but basically there are many things that are cyber crimes in the United States, and the United States only, and for lots of them it's the US and a small number of other countries. A lot of countries just don't have any regulations, and so they don't need cyber ranges because they just attack real systems. But the cyber range is the tool for us. So let's look at the job market. So I'll show you how to get this data on another slide, but the Department of Commerce actually tracks all available cybersecurity jobs. And the jobs that they have on there are the ones currently advertised, which probably aren't going to be filled. And you can see that Arkansas has somewhere between 1,106 and 2,231 total job openings currently. You can see that Texas has somewhere between 17,000 and 55,000. Actually, I looked at Texas. It's in the 50,000s. There's probably 25,000 openings in Dallas alone. So there are just lots and lots of job openings around the country for people trained as cyber defenders or penetration testers or any of the other jobs. But let's narrow our scope. This is what things look like in Arkansas today. I ran this data this morning. And that you can see that there are 1,422 jobs currently advertised. And there are 4,711 filled jobs in cybersecurity. And we have a low number of cybersecurity professionals in the area. We actually do a bit better than the national average in our ability to fill some of those jobs, but since the national average itself is exceedingly poor, because most of these jobs can't be filled, we can see that there's lots of opportunity. In fact, I'll narrow the scope down even more. There are some really fine areas listed, and in Arkansas, basically you can get local ones for Central Arkansas, for Northwest Arkansas, and you can get figures for the Memphis area and so on. But let's look at the local area, which is defined by the Department of Commerce as Little Rock, North Little Rock, and Conway, all of this area. So you can see that we have 778 job openings just in Central Arkansas. That's more than half of the current job openings. So this is an area where there are lots and lots of jobs. And you can see that almost half of the employed workforce is also employed here in Central Arkansas. The other big area for both of these is Northwest Arkansas. So, and then there are limited opportunities in the rest of the state. But I should say, lots of smaller companies have just quit advertising because they've been trying to find people for years, and they just haven't been finding people. So this doesn't really measure all the jobs that are open. What it does is it measures the ones where people are still trying to fill those jobs and haven't given up yet. So. And I said I'd show you where you can get this. So the Department of Commerce operates this website. www.cyberseek.org, and you can find lots of information just about the cybersecurity job market there. But it's of such strategic importance that Department of Commerce just makes this available to everybody, so you can see what the needs are out there. So cybersecurity, cybercrime are long-term problems. And we actually, in some ways, let cybercrime grow intentionally, because the first cybercrime of any note was credit card fraud. Well, when the credit card market developed, the banks were making so much money from credit cards, they didn't really want to do anything that would impede the growth. So they worked with the federal government, and we have a system where if you operate normally, you're only on the hook for $50, and I don't know of anyone who was actually ever charged the $50 if their credit card was stolen, or the data was lost. So credit card theft was made economically painless and remained that way for years. It's only in recent years that the losses have become so great that the banks do care about it. But they have years and years of a head start of cyber criminals figuring out ways to steal money. So we're plugging lots of holes that we've known about for a long time. And if we had started earlier, we wouldn't have had to play so much catch up. But for a long time, it was a crime that really wasn't pursued. So let's talk about the economics of cybercrime. In the next few years, Forbes estimates the cost will be $2 trillion per year, and we'll be spending somewhere between $175 and $200 billion a year just on cybersecurity. And so you can understand that that's going to represent a tax on every transaction that is made. And when you make a purchase at Walmart, you can bet that a few pennies on every dollar are actually going to pay for losses due to cybercrime and anywhere else at this point. This is such an important area that the FBI has a division solely devoted to it. It's called the Internet Crime Complaint Center, or IC3 is how it's usually referred to. It produces an annual report, and it's been published every year since 2001. And you can get the current report, the latest report I'm showing you the cover of here, and all of the others back to the first one. They're available on the FBI's website. And it's not that hard to find. If you just do a search on IC3 reports, they'll come up. And you'll learn a lot of information in there. And I'll show you some, but I also want to show you some stuff from the Small Business Administration. Or at least related to small business. So we estimate that 50% of small to medium-sized businesses have been the victims of cyber attack, and about 60% of those businesses that are attacked end up going out of business. So this is a startling statistic, but I want to look at some more details. So when we talk about those small businesses, Small Business Administration say they make up over 99% of all employers, 63% of new jobs, and so on. You can see that if our small businesses are hurting, this is a